Morning, Tom.
Hi, Leah.
How are you doing?
Excellent. How are
Good.
you?
Doing good. It's Friday.
I know. The summer's
Yes.
flying by.
Yes. And once I'm done with the slides, you're first on the docket. Make sure you can get to
Okay.
your other meeting.
Oh, no problem.
So,
No problem. I what
awesome.
I uh, what I'm going to share is it's not going to take very long, but it's just got kind of a quick call to action, and I'll drop a link in the chat so that it'll be really clear for people to kind of navigate where to go to take steps. So, hey,
Awesome.
Leslie.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for doing this. I had no control. They did one of those calendar things, and everybody landed on uh, Friday at 11, and I was in the minority as saying, well, it's a conflict for me. And everyone else said, well, this is when we're doing it. So, but they have some of the staff members from that work in Brendan Carr's office. So it's going to be a pretty important meeting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, for sure. I was joking the other day, Tom, that the Royals produced all of their runs in 2 games for the entire season.
yeah, it's one of those cases where I just got to keep supporting them because you think from day to day that they can't possibly get any worse, but sure enough, they get worse.
Then they scored 15 to 16 runs, and you're like, it's not like they can't do it; it's that they're not
Right.
doing it.
Yeah.
Apologies, Aaron from NDIA. We're big Royals fans around here.
No, there you go.
Hi, Aaron. Thanks so much
Hi,
for being
Aaron.
here.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
It's okay. I'm a Guardians fan, so I appreciate your tough times.
Oh my gosh. I'm a
Put the slide deck out.
That is a great idea. Also, hello, Jenny and Maiwand and Peter.
Hi, ma'am.
How are you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Well, I'm doing good anyway. So
Good. Can everyone see that okay? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Maiwand, do you have any slides to share during your section?
I have, but
Okay.
unfortunately, my computer is not going to open right now. I'm working remote from home, and today I came to office, and now I totally miss. I really don't know how to do that.
Okay. If you want to email me those slides, I can share them when it comes time.
Okay. Let's do that.
Yeah, I'll make sure.
You should be able to show your slides. You'll have permission to do that.
Yes, everyone should have permission to share their slides, and it's time.
Let me see.
Screen anymore.
Sorry. Hello, Ron. Be safe while you're driving now.
I'm a passenger, so it's good.
Okay, good. Good.
Maybe. Yeah, my driver said maybe.
Very nice. Well, it is 10:30. I'm gonna get us started. Thank you all for joining us on our July, my gosh, it's July coalition meeting. Also, hello, Marcus. Thanks for joining us. I am a new face to probably not most of you here, but new face to facilitating the meetings. I think I've done it once before. My name is Leah Henriksen. I'm the program coordinator here at KC Digital Drive. I'm happy to step in for Leslie to help facilitate our coalition meeting focused on digital navigators this month. While folks are coming in, I have a little icebreaker. If you can drop it in the chat. What is your favorite summer treat? If you want to introduce yourself in the chat, you're welcome to do that as well. I'm going to go out there and say watermelon is definitely my favorite. But would love to hear from some other folks just to kind of get the gears turning while we're starting this lovely Friday morning. But yeah, again, thank you all for joining us, and we're gonna keep on going. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. So for those of you who may be unfamiliar with the KC Coalition for Digital Inclusion, this is our mission and vision statement. The vision statement is that every citizen and household in the Kansas City area has access to the internet, the equipment needed to use it, and the skills needed to take advantage. The mission of the coalition is to facilitate collaboration amongst organizations and initiatives to working to bridge the digital divide in order to maximize the resources for the greatest impact. And I know a lot of you are already doing the work, so appreciate you all stepping up. And for those of you who might be interested in doing the work, hopefully you can get some inspiration from the folks that you'll hear from today. I believe I recognize everyone on the call, but just want to create space for anyone who might be new to the coalition if you want to introduce yourself. I don't think I'm familiar with Jerisa. Would you have space to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jerissa Lara. I'm a summer intern here at Catholic Charities. So I'm just listening in for today.
Awesome. Yes, thank you for joining us. Sorry for the mispronunciation.
No, you're good.
Lovely to see some new faces. And I think there's some coming through the chat, but my icebreaker question was, what's your favorite summer treat? It's like peaches, root beer float, ooh, Greek coffee, Dairy Queen dilly bars, strawberry shortcakes. This all sounds like a lot of good stuff. Thank you for dropping those in the chat. Okay, let me just give space just to make sure I know who's here. If there's anyone else who's new. I think that is everyone on my end. Okay, let's keep on going. Oh, and just so you know, if you want to become a member, feel free to reach out to Leslie Scott. That was her email on the slide. This is our agenda for today. I will be facilitating, and we're actually going to start with a little announcement about E-rate from Tom Esselman, and then we'll get into our panel talking about digital navigators. If you all are panel participants, feel free to share slides and get those ready if you have them. If not, that's totally okay. And if you all have questions for the panelists, we'll wait until the end to ask those. And be thinking of any community announcements that you might have to share at the very end. Okay, let's start with Tom Esselman and his E-rate discussion.
All right. Thank you, Leah. And hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. I love the agenda focusing on digital navigators. That's such a critical area of focus in terms of kind of the future workforce, if I could say it in those terms, that we were hoping was going to get a blast of financial support from the Digital Equity Act from the Biden administration. But since that got canceled, it hasn't taken away the need for digital navigation support. And the reason I wanted to start by talking about that and linking it to the topic that I want to discuss with you, which is the current activities going on in Washington, D.C. concerning something called E-rate, is because digital navigators, not only need to have a physical presence in helping people figure out internet connectivity, computer skills, all kinds of digital navigation activities, but they need to know that they have reliable, affordable places where they can find connectivity and internet. And a lot of times that focuses on internet that's provided by schools and libraries. In addition to that, in rural areas, rural healthcare areas, rural healthcare organizations. And those organizations, schools, libraries, and rural healthcare organizations, have all received the benefit of funding support from the federal government since 1996 under a program known as E-rate. And prior to E-rate, less than 40% of schools and libraries and rural healthcare organizations in this country had any internet connectivity at all. And E-rate was created to provide a subsidy that allows those types of organizations to actually pay for internet equipment. And so now, some 30 odd years later, nearly 100% of all schools and libraries and rural healthcare organizations have internet. And it's because they've been able to receive this subsidy every year. And it's actually a reimbursable program, so they can actually forecast what they need to spend on equipment and devices to help facilitate connectivity because of the E-rate program. So it's been very successful. And the funds that are governed to support the program are managed through the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC. And in the last couple of weeks, the FCC, they voted as a group. It's a small group. There's only 3 commissioners, 1 Democrat and 2 Republicans. And the Democrat has already been threatened to be fired by President Trump. But there you go. They have voted to reform E-rate, which basically means drastically cut E-rate. And they're also considering completely cutting it for any urban schools and libraries, and only focusing on rural schools and libraries. And so they voted as a group to do that, but there is a required period of public input before that decision can actually become finalized. And so we're in this period right now of time where there are 2 things we can do to take action that would help influence this decision from being allowed to be finalized. And one is to contact your elected officials, and the other is to participate in a number of webinars and information gathering activities, which I am going to actually drop in the link right now. And so in the group chat, you'll see a link. My nonprofit is called DPO-KC, the Digital Program Office of Greater Kansas City. And I've been working in the past year mostly on policy-related issues. And I work with a great policy organization in DC called, the acronym is SHELBY, Schools, Healthcare, Libraries, Broadband Coalition. And so this link that I gave you is called saveourerate.com. And it's really a site set up by Shelby to provide all the information that you need. And the perspective I wanted to give you all, it's based on the fact that we all take for granted that schools and libraries and rural organizations have access to internet. And the FCC basically said 30 years later, they think the job is done, that funding is no longer needed. And we equate that decision to something like, saying you built a highway system, and once the highways are built, boom, they no longer need any support for maintenance or upkeep or fixing potholes. And that's not the case. The government always provides funding to repair highways and roads and things like that. But the FCC is saying we want to cut any future funding to allow schools and libraries in urban areas in particular from being allowed to continue to have a subsidy to help pay for their internet. And so that could have very drastic impact, particularly on schools and libraries that are based in low-income areas, because the funding is based on the percentage of low-income residents that surround the particular schools and libraries. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a layman's terms update on why E-rate is so important and why cutting it could be so drastic. Essentially, what it's going to mean is schools and libraries in more affluent areas, they won't have any problem continuing to pay for their equipment and upkeep. But schools and libraries in urban low-income areas, they will no longer have that subsidy, and they will continue to fall further behind. And the last thing I want to say is the notion that it could be shifted away from urban areas to rural areas has this kind of supposition behind it that somehow low-income rural kids are more deserving than low-income urban kids. And we all know that that's not true. So there's a lot of really distasteful outcomes that could result from the FCC making this decision official. We have a window of about 30 days where, as advocates, as partners of schools and libraries, we can take action. I don't want to get into the details because I provided that link, which provides you really good, helpful steps that you can take, even some templates for letters that you can write to your elected officials. There is an upcoming webinar on this coming Thursday. You don't have to be a Shelby member to participate in it, but it is a Save Our E-Rate webinar. That's the last thing I wanted to share with you. We'd love for as many of you as possible. You can find the link to it inside the information that I put in the link in the group chat. But please, please, please try to make time to participate in that webinar so that we can all collectively work together to prevent these cuts from E-rate from happening. So I'll leave it there. I'm happy to take any questions. And if not, I'll turn it back to Leah.
Looks like Lindsay's asking if you can drop the link again.
Oh, sure. Let me do that again. And if for some reason that link doesn't work, just type in saveourerate.com. All together, lowercase, saveourerate.com.
I have a question, Mr. Tom.
Yeah, Peter.
What are the most useful actions this group can take in the next 30 days beyond contacting elected officials?
Well, the most impactful thing you can do is contact the FCC directly. They have a window, a public comment window, and there's a link to it in the saveourerate.com website. So individuals and organizations can directly submit comments, stories, anecdotes that support why having subsidized internet and equipment in schools and libraries is so vital, particularly in urban areas. So the two steps are contact your elected officials so that they, as a Congress, will not vote in favor of supporting the FCC's decision. And then secondly, contacting the FCC directly through their portal. They have a public comments portal. And so the more we can flood the FCC's public comments portal with stories and anecdotes, the less likely the FCC is going to be to get that decision that they voted on to be approved by Congress. I hope that makes sense. Marcus, I see your hand up.
Hey, Tom, good to see you.
Yeah,
I'm
you
glad
too.
you're still doing some really good work. I'm sorry, yeah, I guess when, because you described what, but when would we see this impact if this vote did go through to reduce or eliminate funding? When and how do we see that impact in our communities? When might we expect that? Just as a kind of contingency, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. And a lot of it depends on how much support or lack of support the FCC gets for approving their decision. In other words, if it becomes overwhelmingly something that congressional representatives think they should support, it could go into effect as early as this fall's school season. What is expected is that it would take at least until the end of this year for arguments and debates to be concluded, in which case the soonest, if it if worst case scenario, if it does get approved, at least timing wise, the better option would be it wouldn't start until next year. The problem with it, as I mentioned, and it gets a little in the weeds here, but since the funding is based on reimbursement back to schools and libraries, the effect is going to come when most schools and libraries do their budgeting for the following year. And so just based on a calendar year basis, most schools and libraries are doing their budgeting now for 2027. So if this doesn't get voted on until the end of this calendar year, most of the schools and libraries will have already budgeted their expenses for internet equipment and devices for 2027, but the reimbursement could get cut off. So all that means is they will have to pull funds from other programs, from other staffing, from other things that schools and libraries use their budget for, because they will be denied the reimbursement that otherwise that they typically have been able to budget for the past 30 years. So that's the other reason why it's really a critical, damaging program. I mean, it could have a very damaging impact if this decision by the FCC gets approved. It's going to wreck a lot of schools and libraries' budgets. They're going to have to pull money from other currently supported programs and staff in order to make up the shortfall. So.
Thank you so much, Tom, for
I've taken way too much time. Thank you, guys. It's a big issue. Obviously, I've gotten quite heated about it because I've been spending a lot of time working with groups from around the country on it. And I apologize for having to leave early because we actually have a meeting with our working group and some of the staff members from the chairman of the FCC's office, Brandon Carr, coming up here at 11 o'clock. So I have to jump off this meeting early, but thanks so much for giving me a chance to share this update with you guys. And I've also shared it with John and Adriana and Jennifer from the Health Forward Foundation, and we'll be keeping them updated on a regular basis too. They have a very strong advocacy arm at Health Forward. So I want to make sure that we're kind of recruiting as many of our strong voices as we can to see if we can have an impact on this.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Tom. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, let's keep on keeping on. I'm going to pass it over to Aaron Schill. He's with the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, and he is here to talk about the National Digital Navigator Corps, NDNC, that they help to do multi-year to just expand digital navigation, which will kick us off into our panel after that. So take it away, Aaron.
Yeah, thanks. Good to be here. Good to see some familiar faces and some new faces. I'm Aaron Schill. I'm the Director of Research and Programs at NDIA. So I lead our data and research work and also our programmatic work, working with coalitions like yourselves, with local governments, with practitioners, kind of all the work that we do to support what you all do every day. First of all, I want to say kudos and thanks to Tom for all the hard work you're doing around E-rate. I know we and our affiliate community, and in particular our policy team, appreciate all the work you're doing. So great work and thank you. I'm here today to talk about, as Leah said, the National Digital Navigator Corps, and specifically the program evaluation and some of the things we learned. And I'm going to try to leave you with hopefully some tools and some observations that will be helpful for those of you that are running Digital Navigator programs or are partnering with Digital Navigator programs. So why don't we get into it? I'm going to start off with just a little bit of an intro because I don't want to assume everyone knows what NDNC is or was. It was a big part of our daily lives for about 3 years, but everyone wasn't quite as connected. So the National Digital Navigator Corps was a program that was funded for about a period of 3 years by Google.org. And the idea behind it was to pilot the Digital Navigator model, which has been well established for going on 10 years now. has been well established primarily in urban communities. So we have hundreds of Digital Navigator programs all over the country that are thriving in community anchor institutions and other urban settings. But we've seen a lot less uptake in rural and tribal communities in particular. And so we wanted to pilot this program to see how we could better serve rural and tribal communities with Digital Navigator programs. And so we did this. It was a partnership between NDIA and an organization called Amarin Critical Infrastructure, which is a tribal-led and tribal-serving organization. And then we had 18 sub-grantees or 18 pilot sites across the country. So these were in a combination of rural communities, tribal communities, and then some tribal serving organizations that were not specifically in tribal communities, but serve tribal areas also, particularly in northern Wisconsin and in Maine. But you can see on the map, the program as a whole, the 18 sub-grantees were spread out all over the country. So we had really great representation kind of across a range of community types and different types of communities. And so what we did, we piloted this program, and along the way, we wanted to learn how could we adapt and continue to evolve the Digital Navigator model. And I'm going to talk about a couple of the tools that we developed as a part of this that I think might be useful to you all, and I'll be happy to follow up, have additional conversations if it seems like something you're interested in. But I'll mention a couple of these tools along as I'm talking that we developed specifically for this program, but that we think could be more generalizable to Digital Navigator programs in other settings. And then we provided a bunch of support to these sites throughout the 3-year grant period. So we provided direct funding. So we paid for Digital Navigator salaries and some other staff positions to support those Digital Navigators throughout the period. We also provided training and mentorship for the Digital Navigators, for data managers at each site. We had developed a community of practice, actually a few. So there was a community of practice of Digital Navigators that met on a weekly basis throughout the entire program. We met with data managers and program managers from each site at a minimum of monthly throughout. And then we provided a lot of support around data collection and evaluation. So one of those tools we developed is what we now call the Digital Navigator Data Platform. So we basically built a data collection and measurement tool using Airtable that was built for this program, but can generally work for any Digital Navigator program to collect program data, track participants, participant interactions throughout their entirety of their work with the program. So across multiple sessions, across a range of goals, across a number of different service types. So not only did we want to do that to support these sites, but we also knew at the end of the day that we wanted each of them to do a program evaluation for their individual program, and that we were responsible for doing program evaluation for the overall initiative. We had to report to Google.org, our funder, and we also wanted to know what was the outcome and what was the value of all this, everything we did over 3 years. And so the data platform was a key piece in that. So we developed that early on and then worked with the sites throughout to collect data and manage and analyze that data as they were going. So we went into this with a number of goals. So I'm going to quickly, I won't read all of these line by line, but I'll quickly touch on, we actually had 9 program goals or anticipated outcomes. And so some of those were like, we want to set up the programs. We wanted to source Digital Navigators from within communities and build community capacity internally to address digital inclusion needs where it wasn't currently being addressed. We wanted to build the data collection and analysis expertise of these organizations. We wanted to serve, our target was to serve 13,000 community members, but we really had no idea what the capacity of the organizations would be. And spoiler, jumping to some of the things we learned, we did not get to 13,000 community members served. And that's okay. And we learned a lot. And we have a greater understanding of what is realistic and what capacity of some of these programs might look like. As I said, we strengthened the DN model generally and documented that process so that we are now able to come to folks like you and say, here's what we learned, and here's how we might think that might be useful to your Digital Navigator programs and the ways that you think about your work going forward. So you can see we went in with a range of goals. and we were documenting and measuring things along the way. But ultimately, this all led to program evaluation at the end, which we published earlier this year. I'll share the link at the end of my slide so you can take a look and learn a little bit more if you'd like. But for this program evaluation, we took a mixed methods approach. So these are all the different inputs that we had into the process. So first and foremost, there was the subgrantee program data. Like I said, we built a data platform for them to be collecting data over a period of about 2.5 years. So the grant itself lasted 3 years, but there was some onboarding time and recruitment time, some time afterward to wrap up evaluation, but their actual delivery of service was for 30 months. And we had them tracking data the entire way. So collecting data on things like participant intake, we kind of had a unique approach and asked sites to track individual goals for participants in the participants' own words. So participants could be working on a range of different goals as they went. They could add new goals along the way. But we wanted that to really be able to be reflected in the participants' own words, what they were looking for. We also were tracking things like pre and post skill assessments, devices distributed, kind of the range of different services provided. So all that showed up in that data platform, and so had a lot of quantitative data to be able to bring to this evaluation. We also asked each of the subgrantees to complete their own evaluation report, and I'll get to that in just a second. That's why that's highlighted. I'll talk about that more in just a moment. Additionally, we administered self-assessments with each of the subgrantee staff members. So there were 3 or 4 staff members at each site who afterward gave reflections on their experience and how the program went, as did staff from Amerind and NDIA. So all of us, everyone who worked on this program in any way, completed some sort of self-assessment afterward to provide reflections, impact stories, and help us better understand the program. And then lastly, we selected 4 of the 18 sites to do what we called a subset study. So this was basically a more in-depth partnership with those 4 sites toward the end of the program to learn a little bit more. We knew we didn't have the capacity to do this level of analysis with all 18 sites, so we selected 4, and we did more in-depth data analysis. We interviewed each of their staff members individually, and we also conducted some focus groups with participants of their program. So we actually talked to community members who were served by the programs to understand from their perspective, how did this program work? Did it meet their needs? What were their expectations? Did they have any reservations about working with the digital navigators? All those kind of things that we would not see show up in the data. So that was all the inputs into the program. And we learned a lot. So like I said, we had a lot of program data, quantitative data. So we were able to, give some top level numbers like the total number of people served. Rather than the 13,000 number that we had initially set out, we served 6,500 unique individuals across the programs. We had significantly more than that number of sessions, and we distributed thousands of devices. But more importantly, beyond that, we also were able to look at, with the subset study, we were able to understand how well were participants able to achieve the goals that they went into the program with. And what we learned was the vast majority at the subset sites that had enough data to analyze, at least 70% of participants at the site said, I was able to achieve the goals that I was hoping to achieve when working with this program. And then there was only one site that had enough pre and post survey data to be able to see like actual skill gains and measure skill gains. But again, we were able to see about half of people were using technology in various ways more frequently after they approached the program. And about 3/4 said that they were more confident and comfortable using different types of technology for different purposes. And the pre and post surveys are much more detailed than that. And you can see the actual numbers in the evaluation report. But those were important learnings, and I'll get into kind of like some of the broader observations that those indicated to us here in a moment. But I really quickly want to touch on the subgrantee program evaluations, because I think this is something that might be of interest to some of your programs. So this is another artifact that we developed as a part of this program, an adaptation of the Digital Navigator model. We developed a program evaluation template for Digital Navigator programs. Now, there's a little bit of it right now in the template that's kind of customized to the MDNC program itself, like the way some of the questions are framed, some of the specifics of our grant program, but with some minor tweaks, we're going to be adapting that and then putting that out as a general program evaluation template for any Digital Navigator program to use. So in it, there are sections to talk about the community you serve. So provide some background and baseline information about different population groups and what might the need be in your community that your Digital Navigator program might serve. There are places to track data about the program itself. So in our case, using the Digital Navigator data platform, but for any other program, however you track participation and the services you provide, there are places to provide that. There are also places to gather and document impact stories and reflections, both from staff and from program participants. It is a loose template. It provides a lot of suggestions, but it's not real rigid in terms of requiring folks to follow kind of a specific formula. We make suggestions about data that you might want to use and how you might want to structure this. But we also encourage people, like all of our templates, to adapt and customize it to your own needs. So I'll be happy to share that if anybody's interested and has been thinking about, we'd really love to undertake a program evaluation, but we don't quite know where to get started. This template might be really helpful in kind of getting off the starting block for that. And along the way, we worked with our sub-grantees to develop these evaluations, and they were a really critical part of going into our overall program evaluation. So I basically analyzed 18 individual evaluations and then consolidated them into everything else we learned as a part of our program evaluation. So let's jump to what were some of the key findings. So really quickly, I'm going to touch on some key findings and then some recommendations that show up in our program evaluation. And then I'll be happy to answer questions or go back and talk a little bit more about stuff in detail. So first and foremost, it affirmed the value of Digital Navigators and the model. Like I said, we saw for the sites that did have enough data, we saw great outcomes for participants. People said that they were, both in my conversations with individuals who participated in the programs and the data, said that it met their needs. They trusted the Digital Navigators. They felt more confident and comfortable using technology. So all the things you would hope people achieve from the Digital Navigator program, we heard from participants. It also significantly increased our partnership and understanding of how to work in rural and tribal communities. It produced interesting and lasting partnerships. So even for sites, and we'll get to this in a moment, one of the other findings is program sustainability is a huge challenge. But even for sites that had to scale back their Digital Navigator services after this program, there are other lasting benefits in the partnerships that were developed and the capacity that the Digital Navigators themselves built, not just as Digital Navigators, but as community leaders. They are now seen in those communities as leaders, many of whom have gone on to other kind of community service roles. So some really great lasting impacts in the communities. Again, I won't read through all of these word for word, but you can kind of see some of the key takeaways. I do want to mention number 5 there. We learned a lot about how much it takes to build up a program from the beginning where one didn't exist. And I think many of you have probably experienced this and understand this, that building up partnerships and referrals, we thought we're going to announce that there's a Digital Navigator and we're going to have to figure out how to fit everyone in. Everyone that was lined up at the door waiting for service, we'd have to figure out how do we fit them into the schedule and how do we handle the number of people that are going to be knocking on the door to be served. And that just wasn't the case in a lot of places initially. There was trust that needed to be built. People just weren't aware that this was available or didn't really know what they would do with the Digital Navigator. So this referral pipeline and capacity building really took a lot of time. That was something that we learned a lot about how to do that well. And learn from how to not do that so well initially. We also learned about how much the Digital Navigators themselves took on, not just serving as Digital Navigators, but serving as marketing folks and administrative folks and counselors in some cases. And the amount that they took on and the risk for burnout with those staff have helped us to adapt the program and have actually led to trainings that we now do on creating some parameters around how you engage with community members, doing trauma-informed digital navigation services. There's a lot that we have developed out of what we learned from these digital navigators. And I'll jump to the last one. Yeah, lack of funding was and continues to be the primary challenge and barrier to program sustainability for sites. Every single site that we worked with said they would continue this program if they're able. Many of them still are in some way, but some of them had to stop because funding is just really challenging. As I don't need to tell you all about that. And then lastly, we have a set of recommendations. And again, I won't read through all of these, but we learned there are some things about how to administer a grant program. So some of these recommendations would be oriented toward an organization like NDIA, who might be setting up a grant program across multiple sites, or toward a funder who might be funding multiple sites. For example, Tom mentioned Health Forward Foundation. We are working with them on a separate project, but some of these would be oriented toward a funder who might fund multiple programs. But then some of these also are recommendations for Digital Navigator programs directly. So, for example, number 3, make a plan for outreach and education that will reach partners in the community, which I think is obvious. You need to figure out how to reach out to community partners to get referrals. The thing that was really interesting, though, is how much internal communications and outreach needed to happen. How many digital navigators said, other people in my own organization don't know what I do and don't really understand this program, and so they're not able to be effective advocates and send people my way because they're helping people with housing, or they're helping people access social benefits, or whatever else their program does. And there was a real initial uphill battle to build awareness within their own organizations for what they were doing and how they could benefit participants. Also providing support. So we had data managers, we had program managers, and despite that, a lot of the digital navigators needed even additional support, particularly comms and outreach support. Creating clear data collection requirements. I mentioned a couple of times that there were a limited number of sites who had enough data about certain elements for us to be able to analyze and measure in the evaluation. And that's because data collection was a real challenge in some cases, particularly in some of the rural settings where internet access was not always available, or where trust with participants was a real challenge. So being clear about what requirements are and being realistic about what is possible to collect, I think is a key takeaway. And then planning for sustainability and turnover. So one of the best outcomes was a lot of these digital navigators during the program moved on to more senior roles, were presented with opportunities because they were becoming the face of their organization or seen as a community leader. They were presented with new opportunities. That was a challenge for us and for some of the sub-grantees because they had to bring in new digital navigators to replace them. But at the end of the day, that's a great outcome, and we want to be planning for that ahead of time. And then lastly, again, don't need to tell you all, but developing a sustainability plan early on with multiple contingencies and thinking about different ways that the work can continue as funding kind of becomes more and less available, and kind of braiding that funding through hopefully a range of different sources. We learned just how critical that was toward the end of the program. So with that, I will stop. There's a QR code here. You can get to our report. I will also drop it in the chat here in just a moment once I stop sharing my screen. And yeah, happy to answer any questions. You can always reach out to me. My email's there. I'll put it in the chat also. You can always reach out to me if you have questions about the evaluation, about anything that we learned through the program, or if you'd like to talk a little bit more about like the data collection platform or the evaluation template or any of the other tools that we developed as part of this. So thanks all. And yeah, if we have time for questions, I'm happy to take a few.
Thank you, Aaron. I really appreciate it. I'll leave like 1 minute for questions, and then we'll move on to the panel. I know I learned that I think we all are kind of familiar with digital navigators is a topic that is hard to understand sometimes. And it sounds like there's a lot more trust and outreach that needed to be built. that you all learned pretty quickly. And so I'm sure through hearing from our Kansas City folks as well, they might share some similar challenges or success stories, right? There were also so much impact that was created through this program. So thank you so much for sharing that. Any questions for Aaron? Peter.
Hi, Aaron. Thank you. Which parts of the evaluation template were most helpful for small programs, and which parts were hardest to complete?
Ooh, good question. Yeah. So by far, the part that was the most helpful to the programs and to us were the participant impact stories. So we provided a template, like an easy way for participants to share, collect impact stories. It's nothing revolutionary. Basically, just a form to fill out and tell us kind of. We provided options for different levels of sharing. So like various levels of privacy. So like, can this should be shared just as you share it with your name and everything, or would you like it to be anonymized, or would you like us only to use like the context of what you say but not share your story? So that's a really important piece to give people some control over how their information is shared. But the impact stories by far, because that is, I mean, that's the best way to tell the story of your work, right? And so part of the value of the impact evaluation is to improve the quality of services being delivered. And in our case, it was a grant, so we needed to do reporting for the grant. But at the end of the day, I would say the most value is to tell your story, to hopefully attract additional funding and support and partners, and just be able to talk about the work that you're doing. So that was the biggest part. I think the biggest challenge was some of the secondary data collection. So we had spent a lot of time on collecting program data, and so the sites were very comfortable and familiar with our data platform and how to pull data out. They were looking at it every week at a minimum. But we spent a lot of time helping them develop community profiles and kind of talk about like what does a community we're serving look like. And so there was a lot of work that we did to help them kind of understand like how do you pull certain census data and data from other sources to really paint a picture of what the need is in the community and how your program is helping to address that.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing, Aaron. Appreciate your wisdom and reflections on the program. It's great. For the sake of time, I'd love to move into the panel now, give our folks some time to talk about the programs that they are providing. I would love to start with Marcus. Would you like to go first? Okay, awesome.
Sure.
And we'll just talk a few minutes about just sort of the program that you're offering in terms of digital navigation, and we'll kind of go down the line for each one.
Sure. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, my name's Marcus Flores. I'm the founder and executive director of the Parkville Living Center. We're a community center here in Parkville, just the northwest suburb of Kansas City in the Northland, Platte County, and just some context of right Platte County and in the metro is that there is some Kansas City in Platte County, but Platte County seems to be kind of um, the outlier in the counties that make up Kansas City in terms of uh, I guess, kind of progressive issues, right? It's a very conservative county, and there's a lot of rural areas in this county that allows, the county to be that outlier and not necessarily rely on Kansas City. And so we've tapped into the Platte County Senior Fund funding and provide digital navigation to mostly our senior population throughout the day. And what that means for us, the approach that we've taken here is really that idea that we belong to each other, that there's this community aspect to living life that is facilitated with this tool called technology. And so whenever the tool gets in the way or needs some use, we touch the tool. But what we really do is remind each other that we're a community that has a duty to the well-being of all of us. And so what that means is really listening to folks and meeting them where they're at, learning from folks about their experiences and how our community is wider and broader and deeper with their full participation. And so then we use technology to get through some of those barriers of setting appointments, of contacting friends, of staying connected to stories and healthy minds and healthy bodies and healthy relationships. And and so the technology education becomes a shared experience, much like public school was a shared experience. We take that digital literacy seriously and create kind of that school atmosphere, both with recess, lunch, as well as like the academic piece, because we are blessed to be a full community center, provide lunch and have those activities as well. And so the technology is split up into proactive education and reactive support. And so we tell folks whether relationships are built proactively or reactively, it's just important we build relationships. And so that's the offering that we provide to our community. And I look forward to hearing some other programs and sharing some impact stories because that's what it really boils down to. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you so much, Marcus. If you all haven't made it up to his living center, I would highly, highly recommend. They do a lot of great programming up there. Let's move on to Gustavo and Kevin with Care Beyond the Boulevard. Are you guys ready to chat about your digital navigation?
Yeah, I have some slides. Is it cool if I share? Okay. So I'm Kevin Lopez. I'm the digital navigator at the Beehive in the computer lab. Um, we just opened, so like, well, not just opened. We opened 5 months ago, and we have 6 computers that are open to anyone in the public. But we mostly see our clients who are people experiencing homelessness and people who have like limited access to technology. So I'm just there to, try to help them. So we usually help them with SNAP applications, housing vouchers, housing assistance, free phones, creating email accounts. A lot of people don't have phones, so like we kind of have to, go through that in a different way because they can't really use a Google account because it needs a phone for verification. So we always just try to like help them the best way we can. We also help them like uploading documents, applications, and recently we started doing applications for reduced fare for the buses with KC ATA, and so well we try to help everybody and with like the main things that I just mentioned, but obviously people will go in there just to look for like look at simple things like maybe check their email, they'll watch videos, listen to music, or just browse the internet, and obviously we don't like to deter people from that either because we want them to have a safe, relaxing space as well. I think that helps specifically in the Beehive. We have a lot of other things like we do dental, we do case management, and it just kind of helps to have like a third space where people can just chill and, uh, cool off sometimes too, especially right now in the heat. So it just, we try to help them out as best we can in that way as well. Okay, so looking ahead, we want to continue to support our case managers by lightening their load and helping our clients, get done with these tasks that maybe are a lot are simpler that the case managers don't necessarily need to be there. So I'm always there to help people if they need help. Sometimes people just are able to, knock it out themselves, but I think the best way that we can help people isn't necessarily just by giving them the access to the computers, is also by just being there to actually guide them. Because a lot of people are scared to ask questions, and so it's kind of good to just be there and be open to helping people. So yeah. Any questions?
Thank you. That was great. Really appreciate it. We're gonna save the questions for the end, but
Okay.
thank you for sharing. And I know you guys are doing some great work over there on the Paseo, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's move on to Maiwand, and I'm gonna get your slides up in just a second. Make sure this is
Thank you.
on. All right, let's see. Hmm, okay. Can you see that okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Leah. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about our folks that what we are doing in Catholic Charities of Northeast Kansas as a digital navigator. Thank you. Can we move to the next slide? Yeah, so in Catholic Charities, we are working with different communities that we are helping build digital skills to thrive there in the USA. Regarding to that, we are providing digital literacy training in basic computer skills, creating and using Gmail accounts or any other accounts that they need, guiding clients to use the internet and online resources, and also helping clients complete online application and accesses essential services. Yeah, thank you. Uh, Culturally response support. Uh, Beyond technology, we are providing interpretation that and culturally appropriate support to the clients truly understand the digital services available to them. So the interpretation part is helping the clients to understand digital services in their own language and cultural context. The second is community connections, working closely with the members of communities, staying available as they adjust to life in the USA and local folks. We are working for right now with two counties, that is Wyandotte and Johnson community. Resources, we are really like blessed with the resources that we are having, and we really need the organization to connect and expand access and skills for our communities that we are working for. The KC Digital Drive, thank you very much. It's a really big stuff that they did. Through KC Digital Drive, we connect clients with free computers so they can continue learning, access online services, search for jobs, and staying connected from home. So this is a big opportunity for them, and we are really appreciate that we have that. Another thing is North Star Digital Literacy. Clients built practical skills through this program and can earn recognized digital literacy certificates. So we really appreciate that also. And affordable connectivity, internet access. We help clients to find lowest cost or free internet options and connect them with the resources so they can stay connected at home. So that is another thing that we are looking for. This is our weekly schedule for the digital literacy classes that we are serving to communities for Swahili and Dari speaking communities. Monday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Is for the Swahili speakers. We are providing the digital literacy classes for them. And on Tuesday, for the Dari digital literacy, it has two levels, level 1 and level 2. It starts from 12 to 2:30 p.m. And we have a bunch of students in both our classes. So they really liked those classes. And we have a typing class that is for everyone. Anyone can join. And we have a bunch of students that they are here and they are learning typing classes, typing with us in this class. Yeah. And another thing is we are having a Zoom class. This is on Friday from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. We are helping those that they cannot join with those classes that we are having above. They are working or they are doing anything else. So that's why we put this time for them and we are showing them everything online. We have another thing that it's coming in this July. It's intern program. We are partnering with college intern to bring even more skill building support to our communities. Those interns are with us and they are working with us as an intern. So we really appreciate this. So the college interns are current college students volunteer their time and skills to support our clients. The skill building interns help develop additional digital and academic skills to learn to client needs and communities. This is an extra hand and fresh perspective for the clients that we are serving. Additionally, we are supporting beyond digital skills training. We help clients with everyday technology needs that they run into, like creating email accounts, online safety and scam awareness, printing, scanning, and uploading, school portals and parent accounts, and basic Microsoft Word and Excel, password recovery, job application and resume help, accessing uh, telehealth services, government benefits and online forms, and smartphone assistance. And at the end, our goal is to helping individuals and families become self-sufficient, confident, and independent, and using technology so they can keep building their lives here in Kansas through our digital literacy trainings, culturally responsive support, and community partnerships. Thank you.
That's awesome, Maiwand. Thank you so much for sharing.
You
guys
are
do
welcome.
some
Thank you.
great work in Kansas with our immigrant refugee family. So appreciate your work.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's go to the last two. We'll start with Peter and then Yadira, if you have anything to share, we'd love to hear from you after that. Go ahead, Peter.
All right. Thank you, Leah, I'm glad to be on this panel. So to introduce myself, hi, I'm Peter Arvanitakis. I'm an ACC member with KC Digital Drive, that stands for the American Connection Corps. I'm doing my year of service, and I'm a digital navigator with KC Digital Drive, and I work at the LAMP campus in the Key Coalition neighborhood and Ivanhoe neighborhood. So the LAMP campus is a community hub that brings digital literacy classes, device access, internet help, and tech support under one roof. I originally got acquainted with KC Digital Drive by being in their pilot digital ambassador program, where I was with Workforce Partnership. I was hosted there, and there I would help in their community computer lab. So people would walk in and they would introduce me to how to sign people in, ask how to help people, get them on a computer, get them situated. And that was a good experience for me to translate into the work I do now. So my role here at LAMP is simple. I do one-on-one navigation. I help people figure out their device or connectivity situation. I help troubleshoot tech problems and connect them to the right resources. I made it a little short so we can get more in depth in the questions, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Peter, for sharing. And we definitely appreciate him here at the Digital Services and Support Center, for sure. All right, Yadira, you are the last one if you want to talk about your work as a digital navigator at Literacy-KC.
Yes, I have a few slides to share, so I'll try to be quick. Okay, can you see my screen? It's just loading. Okay, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, except, okay, yes, it's good.
Okay, awesome. So my name is Yadira Gildo. I am an ACC member as well, just like Peter, currently serving for Literacy-KC. Just like Peter, I transitioned from a digital ambassador internship with KC Digital Drive, and that led me to the position I am today, serving as a digital instructor with Literacy-KC. So I did a listening tour at the beginning of my service, and I witnessed some barriers during my community service listening tour, including some language gaps, lack of home devices, and affordable internet. My service action is during this service year to meet with community members in local spaces and just to meet them close to where they live and gather so that they have access to these classes. So some of my most significant projects in the service so far I have been instructing at multiple classroom sites around the Kansas City metro area. So I have structured and I have led weekly courses to instruct adult learners of all kinds, immigrants, refugees, or just adult learners that are willing to learn computer basics. I have led sessions from anywhere from an hour to 2 hours plus, covering anything from computer basics, email, internet navigations, operating systems that include Windows 11 or Mac OS, also a little bit of QR code practice. So I also have held boot camps at Literacy-KC and the main hub, which is a Park 39 location down in Westport. And I have created, announced through flyers, and completed 3-week-long sessions of these boot camps using North Star's curriculum and getting them all certified at the end of these boot camps. Also, I provide virtual support for Literacy-KC when they enroll virtual students. I do their orientation to give them a rundown on how to use Zoom, how to use Google Classroom, and all of those basics to get them on track for their HiSET classes, their ELL classes, and all of those that Literacy-KC has to offer. Some evidence of my impact in the past few months. My teaching portfolio, I have taught at different community centers. So one of them has been Della Lamb Community Centers. I did a 4-month course there for their refugees. They passed all the four North Star certifications, and at the end they were gifted laptops and hotspots from the city of Kansas City. And I also have taught at JVS, Jewish Vocational Services. I have had a previous ongoing digital skill class, and then LKC's computer lab, which is my workforce boot camp classes. Also, I just completed my most recent bilingual class. That was my first bilingual class, so I was able to do a little bit of English, do it in Spanish to reach out to all of those that who don't speak too well of English, so they were able to participate in that as well. And then also at our Clymer Community Center, which is another location for Literacy-KC, I am currently teaching Monday and Friday weekly digital skill classes that are free for anybody to attend. And then some other community centers I have also taught with is Bishop Sullivan, Garrison Community Center, KCK Housing Authorities. So I have taught computer classes and phone classes for all of those different community centers. And then a little bit more about the boot camps that I teach. I teach Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, and then I have an ongoing Canva graphic design class as well. And I've included some pictures as well of some of my students with their North Star certifications, some projects that we have worked on with digital design. And then a quick story of impact. My most important part of this service was probably my Delaware Lamb cohort, which was 4 months long. And I taught this to local refugees that it was a big language barrier, but with a translator, we were able to get them all certified in 4 different certifications through North Star. And they, at the end, did receive their laptop and hotspots. So that's all I have to share. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone on the panel who's shared. Before we get into questions, just want to disclaim these are not the only digital navigators in the Kansas City metro area, but thank you to those of you who stepped up to talk about your experiences today. And thank you to everyone else who's also doing the amazing work in our communities. I have just 2 questions that I want to run through, and then if anyone else has any questions to ask specifically, feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll answer those at the end. But I'd love to start with the panel just asking, why is this work in digital navigation, what you are doing every day, important to the communities you serve? I know a lot of you talked about that already, but if there's anything else you want to share about the importance of this work, that would be great. Let's go down the line again if Marcus wants to start with that question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think I take the work that I do here pretty seriously, and what I mean by that is I have fun here, you know, because this is a place I think that I heard I heard Kevin or Gustavo talk about that third space, and I think that that's what we're talking about here is helping people who um have these unmet needs or might not even understand what their full, potential may be, we deal with the term dignity a lot, but that's also hard to understand sometimes. But, essentially when we're not able to live into our fullness of ourselves, then we compromise a bit of ourselves, you know. And so I think it's super important the work we do here, especially with our older adults. I hear it with different populations, and I guess, I'll speak to the older adults. Um, we hear a lot about them feeling neglected or unheard or unseen, much like any of these marginalized populations, right? But it takes a different type of approach to meet each individual where they are. And so instead of having a prescribed approach, the work that we do here that gets me excited every day is to meet each individual and to understand where they're at and what they're trying to do. And what I love is that almost, because of the dynamic of the relationship, I have a lot of technical skills. They may not have a lot of technical skills, but I don't have a lot of other skills, storytelling, maybe I don't know, certain types of hobbies, or even, some maybe emotional empathy. And so in talking with these members of our community, um, I get to grow in that way, and those skills then become a part of our community. And so I think it's important because it doesn't just help one individual, it helps us as a community listen and be present to folks who would otherwise be a little bit outside of that fullness that they can live into. And I think there's ebbs and flows within cultures, and I think probably right now we can all there's a benefit from sharing these stories. And so I appreciate doing this work and sharing these stories and hearing it from others who do this work as well.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Marcus. Kevin or Gustavo, would you like to share next?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as an organization, we primarily serve folks who are experiencing homelessness or have in the process of exiting homelessness. So a lot of our services are always with our patients in mind. So we are a healthcare organization, but throughout the years, we've added services as needed to best serve and to build trust with those that we serve. Uh, so throughout the years, that's looked like adding case management services, adding medical respite, adding dental services. And recently, we've realized that there's a gap growing um, as technology advances so quickly. Oftentimes it's leaving those that have less, those that live on the streets behind. So really just having a space for our patients to come in and be able to access an email, look for a job, do things that they'd like to do by themselves. For as much as we like to think that our patients trust us, there are patients that are new to us. They don't know who we are. So just having a space for them to be able to come in, sit down, do things by themselves, and slowly build trust with Kevin, with the staff at the Beehive. It's been absolutely pivotal, and the numbers themselves speak to that. Just in June, we had 111 folks stop by and use computers. We're only open 3 days a week from 11 to 4. So that's just massive. And they've learned to trust Kevin, learned to ask him questions, ask for help. So yeah, absolutely very important work for the community that we serve.
Thank you, Gustavo. Appreciate that. Let's go to Maiwand, if you are able to share about how this work is important to the communities you serve.
Yeah, thank you, Leah. It's really important because we are working with the communities that they never saw computer or devices that they are using today. So this is something that we are introducing, the word that is completely unknown for them. So basically, we have a lot of folks that they were thinking. One of our client that she came in and it was the first time that she was like touching the computer, and that was something really excited for us and also for them. And she thought at the beginning that the computer must be like larger, like a room, and she can enter to it. So that was something really like then we introduced the laptop to her and then show her how to use that. And now she's making presentations. So something really that we are achieving something through this. So it's really inspiring and really that appreciate that we can help those people.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for sharing, Maiwand. Let's go to Peter and then Yadira.
My answer will be greatly influenced by the different panelists. It's a great panel today. So it's necessary, I'd say, over important. The digital divide is very real in our neighborhood we serve and all the neighborhoods of the digital ambassadors and most likely everyone's neighborhood, wherever you are. Not everybody has access to a device or reliable internet, and even fewer know about resources that exist or how to use the tools available to them. And without that, as kind of part of my listening tour that Yadira mentioned earlier, I did the same one. Alana Henry just wanted to, she's the executive director over there. She said that somebody got an email saying, join the Zoom room at, to attend a meeting or discuss this. And the person showed up to the Ivanhoe neighborhood building, the community center, and said, where's the Zoom room? Thinking it was a physical place. So anyway, without like a strong foundation, accessing telehealth portals, I think it's necessary after a conversation I've had with someone that you can't even go to your medical appointments without checking in online first. So I've been fortunate enough to be with an organization that does the Adopt 2.0 distribution grant and has distributed plenty of devices to the Kansas City on the Kansas side community, and hearing all the feedback about how this device will help with like a bigger screen and getting people equipped with the ability to check into their telehealth appointments. And they just didn't have the tools before. Um, yeah, you're locked out of applying for jobs, accessing government services, showing up for your kids' education. So digital navigation bridges that gap. Um, Kevin said something quite cool that it kind of grows because there's so many new tools and so many people aren't growing with that sense of tooling, like with AI. And it's cool that at the Digital Services and Support Center, where I help people one-on-one, our digital skills trainer here, Carol, she has implemented an AI for the rest of us course. So it's like it's meeting kind of people's needs and they have questions, saying that people most likely are already using AI with Google Maps, and just being patient and not and hearing people's needs. And I'd say working one-on-one with clients is unique because you're building a trusted space and people feel scared or something, you're able to connect with people and like I was scammed once, so I don't go to this website. Something those details don't really come up in like a class. So yeah, we meet people where they are, no judgment, no assumptions about what they already know, and it's very important to the community I serve.
Thank you, Peter. Let's round it off with Yadira.
So, for me, my digital navigation work or digital instruction work is pretty important to the community because I feel like this is something that is helping others with having access to the internet, having access to a device that they can then go in and apply for a job or create a resume. I do offer those courses to help with resume building and helping them get into the workforce. And also, like I've said before, those North Star certifications, that's something that they can build on their resume. So having that is very important, and also gaining trust from these people. Like Peter says, that they have anxiety over computers or accessing some websites that because of previous stuff that has happened, or just having anxiety overall. So I think it's really important to me to gain trust from these community people that want to learn, and to get them in the right direction to where they want to reach their goals, to get their job, get that position that they're wanting to get in the future. And also too, like me, I'm bilingual, so I think that it helps a little bit to be able to connect with those people and kind of bridge that barrier of language gap, right? So that's probably why it's very important to me to serve to the community and have that trust from the community members as well.
Thank you all for sharing. Those were some great insights. The last question that I have before we turn it over to any community questions is we're going to do a little bit more rapid fire just because I want to make some time for announcements at the end. But my question is, in 1 minute, can you share one impact story or a memorable engagement you had with a client you served? And let's start with Maiwand. Are you able to start first?
Sure. Thank you very much. So yes, one of the, uh, especially, I'm sorry if I'm taking a bit more, because we are serving those ladies that they came from Afghanistan, and they never ever attend any school. They don't know how to write and read in their own language. But today we are able to give them the opportunity that they are learning devices and computers, and they are now serving for their communities. And they can now read and write in English. And they are using that English that to read and write their own language also with others. So one of the lady came in and she was like really like she never touched the computer before, and she wanted to help her husband that to do something because her husband wasn't able to provide all the necessary things for their families. Now they are having a page on WhatsApp, and they are selling products that it is provided by them from the community, and they know how to use that, and they are using the computer to put all those necessary stuff and to provide all the information that they need. So they are blessed, and they are always saying that thank you very much for these classes, that they now we can do something better in future for our life and for our children.
Thank you for sharing that. That's an amazing arc on their education. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Let's go to Peter next. You want to share an impact story?
My impact story isn't a one-off fix. I'd say my favorite moments are being at the Digital Services and Support Center when one of our digital skills trainers clients come in, and she's teaching a class and they have a problem in the moment. So they're looking for her. I'm not the first choice they want to talk to. And they see me, a young person, smiling and say, I can help you in this moment. And at first they're very hesitant, but I can sit with them, maybe get another perspective from me, and I can help them solve the problem. And often I do. So it's a good thing I'm there to add capacity. And then either like 2 or 3 weeks later, they walk in asking me by name, hey, Peter, do you teach classes that shift from, who is he? I don't know who that is because they have a long-standing relationship with someone else to I trust Peter, and that's part of digital navigation.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Let's go to Kevin and Gustavo.
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, a man came in to get the reduced fare for the bus rides, and for that you need to either have SNAP or Medicaid. And I usually always start off whenever they come in and ask them if they have a phone because I feel like that will make everything easier. And he said he didn't, so we started doing his reduced fare application, and he did qualify. So I was like, in the process, I thought about it, and I was like, oh wait, you qualify for a phone, a free government phone as well. So right on the spot, we just did that, and he was like surprised at how quick it was. And I feel like, and his phone was like on the like ordered already, so he was gonna get it in a couple days. So I just feel like I like when stuff like that happens. Whenever I'm helping someone, they had no idea of a service or something like that, and then we can just get it done right away. So like it just maybe they went in for something completely different. Maybe they just went into like watch YouTube videos or something like that, and then we just end up fixing something that like is actually gonna make an impact. So I just feel like when that type of thing happens, it's always really cool. It's really rewarding.
Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. It's always a good, nice surprise when you're like, oh, you can sign up for other things for free. That's great. Let's go to Yadira, and then we'll finish off with Marcus.
So one impact story I have to share with one of my students that I have is one of my Canva classes. It's kind of was supposed to be a short boot camp class, but it ended up gaining a lot of student interest, and they all wanted to keep learning more about advanced Canva. So I have many students actually that have little small businesses. So I've been able to help them with creating flyers, business cards, promotional posters and stuff like that. And probably the most impactful one has been a student who is an artist. So she draws her own sketches, and she created a big old banner on Canva and got it printed. And I was able to see her work being used in real life at the Kansas City Art at the art festival. So she put in a QR code, and people were able to scan the QR code on her poster and find out more information about her her artist and all of her portraits and all her work on there. So that has probably been the most impactful, is seeing what students are able to do using the things that they have learned throughout my classes and apply them into their real life work, businesses, and so on. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Yadira. All right, Marcus, finish us off.
All right. Yeah. Outcomes, right? The impacts. So, we teach digital, we're teaching cell phone app basics. And this lady comes in and, we're kind of just talking and chatting. And this lady comes in and she's like, "Hey, I need to learn how to use Uber." She's kind of stressed out. Uh, and so, I talked to her. "Hi, hey, before you just get into that, let's just get to know each other. Hi, how are you?" And she's a little frantic, a little, upset, in that internal way. And I'm listening to her. And one of the other people in the classroom, somebody who I would say would be more her peer, you know, just steps in real quick and says, "Oh, honey, you don't need to learn how to use Uber. You need a friend," right? And so this lady became friends with each other, and through their friendship, got car rides and felt comfortable enough to come in and learn Uber and to get to where they needed to go. But I see these two ladies now. They come to evening programs. They come to Friday programs and Saturday programs now, and I know that that impact lasted longer than that learning. That impact continues to feed these folks, and that's what I love to see.
Thank you all so much for sharing your stories. I know that I can just kind of conceptualize the work that you do a lot. So thank you so much. To the panel, we have a few minutes left, so I want to make space for announcements/questions that anyone has for the panel. If you have any announcements and links to share, I'd highly recommend dropping those in the chat. But yeah, I'd love to make space if anyone else has any other questions for the panel. No questions or announcements? You guys answered everything perfectly. Lindsay says, great panel. Appreciate you all.
I can make just a little announcement.
Yeah.
Part of our community center is civic engagement, and part of civic engagement is education and awareness, right? So that on voting day, you just don't go into the polls and see the ballot for the first time. And so we're doing a town hall forum for our applicable state and county candidates in the August 4th election. And we're also doing ballot measure discussion. And where that combines with technology is because I run these senior centers in Weston and Dearborn and the more rural parts of the county. We're streaming those to these places to allow the participants of these more rural counties to participate in this forum. And so the connective nature of technology is still very much needed throughout our communities, and not just the ones we are, but the ones next to us too. And so it's really fun to collaborate with others and to share the benefits of what we're doing, just like in this forum here. So thank you for that. And I just wanted to share the town hall forum on July 23rd. ParkvilleLivingCenter.org has connection information for that.
July 23rd. Awesome.
What's the URL again?
It's Parkville
Living Center.org. Yeah.
Awesome. Lots of resonance in the chat for a good panel. Thank you all so much. Any other questions or announcements? Got a minute left. Okay. All right. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to the panelists for presenting and talking about the work that you do. This is really great. And thank you to Aaron for coming over from NDIA. And yeah, I hope you all have a good rest of your Friday. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Yeah.